It was one of those days, the kind where you know things aren't going to go your way before you even get out of bed. I'd made the mistake of taking my entire family grocery shopping, wife, kids, in the works. My wife was pregnant with our third child, so leaving her at home was out of the question. And while the kids were kids, there was no way to keep them from being a handful, especially with the Texas heat making everything 10 times harder. I was already dreading the trip before we even left the house. So there we were, the whole circus, rolling into the parking lot at HB on a sweltering Saturday afternoon. If you've ever been to Texas in the summer, you know the kind of heat I'm talking about, 95 degrees in the shade, the kind of heat that feels like it's taking a personal vendetta out on you. Inside the car, with the windows up, the thermometer was probably reading a cool 130 degrees. We were circling the packed parking lot looking for one of those spots designated for expectant mothers or families with small kids. We weren't trying to game the system, we just didn't want to push a stroller across a hot asphalt lot while keeping two toddlers from darting into traffic. I mean, safety first, right? As we turned a corner, there it was. A spot, not too far from the entrance. And just as I was about to pull into it, some guy comes flying across the lane from the opposite direction and snags it right in front of me. No signal, no hesitation, just the smooth, self-satisfied move of someone who knew they could get away with it. I muttered something under my breath, but I didn't make a scene. We parked about 300 feet further down the aisle. It wasn't the end of the world, but it meant a longer walk with kids who had no clue about cars or traffic. As I started unloading the kids, I noticed the guy was still sitting in his car. He'd been in such a hurry to steal the spot that he needed 5 full minutes just to gather himself before he got out. He finally stepped out, blocking the path between my car and the store entrance, and started walking toward the store like he was on some kind of victory lap. Now, I wasn't looking for a fight, but I couldn't let it slide. I walked up, pushing the stroller, and said, "Hey, that parking spot is really meant for pregnant women and families with small kids." I mean, it was clear as day. My wife was pregnant and my kids were well unpredictable. He didn't even slow down, just tossed back, "Yeah, the kids are in the car." And that's when everything changed. It wasn't just about the parking anymore. He'd volunteered way too much information. Now, if he had kids in that car, that was a serious problem. If he didn't, well, he just lied about it. Either way, it wasn't something I could ignore. So I said, "It's way too hot to leave kids in the car without air conditioning. That's not safe." I thought he'd maybe just keep walking. But no. He waved me off like I was some sort of annoyance and said, "They'll be fine. Don't worry about it." And that was it. That was the moment I knew I couldn't just let it slide. Whether he had kids in that car or not, he'd created a problem for himself. So I went inside and told the store manager exactly what he had said. Word for word. No exaggeration. No drama. I just said I thought someone should be aware. The manager thanked me and told me they'd look into it. I didn't stick around for details, I just grabbed a cart and we went about our shopping. By the time we were done, nearly 25 minutes later, the parking lot was even hotter, but I didn't mind. As we walked back to our car, I saw him. The same guy was standing next to his vehicle talking to a uniformed constable. The officer didn't look happy. And honestly, neither did the guy. His posture had completely changed. Whatever was going on inside that car, he was getting an earful about it. I didn't gloat. Didn't make a big deal about it. I just buckled the kids into the car, loaded up the groceries, and glanced over at him. Recognition flickered across his face when he saw me, and I gave him the politest smile I could muster. As I drove away, I couldn't help but think, he'll be fine. Don't worry about it. And that, my friends, is how a stolen parking spot turned into a minor lesson in not leaving kids in the car in 100-degree heat. Now let me tell you about karma. Sometimes it's not loud and dramatic. It's just a key in a trash can. I was 17, working at a clothing store in the local mall. It was my second summer there, and I'd earned the trust of the managers. I was the one who closed up the store every night, and I took pride in that. But then Ron, the manager, decided to hire his niece Kelly. Things started changing after that. My hours dropped. Kelly's hours went up. Eventually, I found myself working less than 20 hours a week while she climbed the ranks. So I did what anyone in my position would do. I asked Ron why the change. I'd been reliable for 2 summers, closing the store without any issues. But Ron just shrugged and said Kelly needs the experience. When I pushed back, he simply said, "If you don't like it, too bad. You can quit." So I did. The mall was full of stores hiring, and within a week I had a new job. A few weeks later, Kelly was scheduled to close at my old store, and I was closing at my new one. The timing couldn't have been better. I finished up at my store, locked everything up, and casually walked by my old job. I knew the key was hidden under the gate, so I took a moment to adjust my shoe, grabbed the key, and slipped it into my pocket. No one noticed. The next morning, the store remained closed. No one could get in. Ron had to come back early from his trip to open up the store. Turns out Kelly couldn't find the key. He was furious. But I didn't care. I wasn't there to cause chaos, just to remind him that actions have consequences. After that, Ron never treated anyone like they were replaceable again. And finally, we come to the story that takes the cake. In 2021, new neighbors bought the land next to my property. They started putting together plans for a development, and it quickly became clear that they didn't respect the rules. They wanted to build septic systems closer to my property line just because it was more convenient for them. And then came the kicker. They wanted me to follow their neighborhood aesthetic rules. Specifically, they wanted me to plant only red, white, and blue flowers in my front yard. I live in Canada. I wasn't having it. I had bought my house in 2015, long before these people showed up. They wanted to control everything: the color of my flowers, the type of vehicles allowed on my property. I realized they were trying to create an HOA-like system through intimidation and paperwork. But I wasn't about to let them get away with it. So when the township council meeting came up, I showed up. I didn't rant, I didn't make a scene. I just calmly pointed out that their request wasn't about practicality, it was about control. The septic systems didn't need to be closer to my property for any legitimate reason. And guess what? The variance request was denied. The developer's plans shot down. And that was the moment I knew they couldn't just come in and dictate how I lived. And you know what? I'm still here, still living in my house, still planting whatever flowers I want. If they ever try to tell me what colors to plant again, I'll make my entire front yard a beautiful riot of purple and neon orange. Principles matter. So, which of these stories was the most satisfying? The guy who stole the parking spot and dug his own grave? The manager who learned that you don't dismiss people without consequences? Or the developer who learned that some people won't roll over just because they throw paperwork at you? You decide. But I'll leave you with this: sometimes the most satisfying revenge is the one that's quiet, subtle, and oh so effective.